Russia's President Vladimir Putin was in Beijing this week to meet with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. And this comes amid reports that Xi may visit North Korea as early as next week. For more on this, we're joined today by Dr. Stephen Noerper, President at Asia Dialogue. Dr. Noerper, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
So Putin met with China's Xi in Beijing this week, but the two sides appear to have failed to reach an agreement on pipeline details. What do you make of the summit?
Well, it really shows the disadvantage that Russia finds itself in relative to China. The relationship is close, and certainly President Putin wanted to show good relations, a bon ami with President Xi, especially 4 days after the visit by President Trump. However, they were able to come to an agreement and to make an announcement regarding what it considered condemnation of U.S. unilateralist policy. It expressed concern about the lack of an arms control agreement. It expressed concern about U.S. intentions by way of a Golden Dome, a nuclear shield, as well as U.S. defenses in space. But in reality, Putin did not get what he really would have hoped for, which is the pipeline, the second that would have gone through Mongolia to China and significantly increased Russian oil exports to China. But China wants to see more specificity in terms of pricing, in terms of contracts and guarantees. So there is some imbalance there, despite the fact that the two leaders agreed on geopolitical issues.
Right, and they also talked about maintaining peace on the Korean peninsula and that they're against sanctions on North Korea. So what message are they trying to send, and what does this tell us about their relationship with North Korea?
Well, certainly, they've continued to advocate against sanctions. The sanctions regime has weakened as a result of Chinese and Russian cooperation. But we need to remember that right now, the closer relationship is between Russia and North Korea. The DPRK has bolstered its relationship after President Putin met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un back 2 summers ago. And so as a result, the North Koreans have been supportive of Russia's war in Ukraine, sending troops to Donetsk and also a missile and other technology, hoping for foodstuff, fuel, and Russian technology in turn. China has found itself a bit out in that regard, but China has also been careful to make sure that it's approaching the DPRK again, and certainly this potential visit by Xi and recent visits by the Chinese foreign minister and other senior dignitaries have echoed China's continued interest in making sure that there is, from its perspective, a stable Korean peninsula and its favoritism toward Pyongyang. So there's a carefully managed dance here where Pyongyang, Moscow have the closer ties at the moment.
Right, and like you mentioned, this summit between Putin and Xi comes just days after Trump's visit to Beijing. Does the timing of the meeting have any significance?
No, in the regard that the original Trump visit was supposed to have been in March, and this was long scheduled. However, in actuality, it does, because it allows President Putin and President Xi to celebrate their close relationship. There have been 40 visits by the two in terms of their meetings. President Putin was just in China last September. So for him, he is able to look and emphasize that his relationship with China is much closer than China's relationship with the U.S. President Trump had not visited in 7 years. And certainly China has an advantage to having both Putin and Trump come in the same week. And it shows Xi's upper hand at the moment. He's in relative strength, whereas Putin is distracted in Ukraine with the war going badly. And of course, Trump is distracted in Iran with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So China finds itself in the strongest position of the three. And President Xi was quick to move on that in hosting both leaders. Earlier this year, the EU also sent a number of leaders. So China has been entertaining a number of dignitaries of late on many issues, geosecurity, but also political and economic. And so this reflects Russia's continued resilience with China and at the same time an ability to temper, from Russia's view, the Trump visit.
I see. And Dr. Noerper, before I let you go, President Xi is reportedly expected to visit North Korea as early as next week. What do you think that would signify? Because some analysts see this trip as a response to Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi's push for a more assertive security posture. What's your take on this?
Well, certainly, and we've just had a very important meeting this week between President Yi and Prime Minister Takaichi. China may ostensibly use that as the excuse to go to Pyongyang, but remember, China is equally concerned about Russia's relationship with Pyongyang, and so it may see leverage and an ability to look like it is still in maximum influence when it comes to the DPRK. What will be interesting is Kim Jong-un's response, because he would be meeting with Xi again. He has met repeatedly now with Putin and senior Russian officials, and perhaps this is a way and an invitation for him to think about meeting with President Trump, a Kim Jong-un Trump meeting. And from the perspective of the DPRK, that might be a fair balance and allow the DPRK leader a chance to leverage himself on the world stage the way he did on the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II last year in his meeting with Xi and Putin.
Right, we'll have to see how that goes next week. All right, Dr. Noerper, thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.